Okay, again, I'm going to say it in the interest of clarity. If your question has anything to do with coronavirus, hold it, because we're going to take a break after the general off-topic. I need to get a few more updates, and then we'll come back and do coronavirus. So non-coronavirus, go.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, with recent incidents in Bronx politics, I have been told that State Senator Luis Sepulveda may, and I have to put it that way, may be wired. Mayor de Blasio, you were investigated by the U.S. Attorney's Office 2 years ago, with the U.S. Attorney saying that they did not have enough evidence.
You really?
The U.S. Attorney who investigated you was then fired.
My friend, I don't know where you're going, but it sounds rather obscure.
Close to you. He was on your presidential campaign. Was he asking you questions that might be used by the U.S. Attorney, and has the U.S. Attorney called you in for any...
Everything you're saying is outrageous. No to everything. Let it go.
Mr. Mayor, about the video that the commissioner was asked about, the arrest in Canarsie.
Yes.
Have you seen that video also, and what are your thoughts on it?
I agree with everything the commissioner said. I mean, look, I don't like what I saw, obviously. It's not what we're trying to do here. We don't have all the facts. We need a full investigation. But I do want, look, we're going to have a more serious conversation in this city that is not just, it's one thing or another. The fact is, I don't want any officer to stand on someone's leg if they don't have to. I want more communication between officers and people that they are confronting. That's everything that we've been training. I want to see situations like this handled better. That said, I want everyone to remember, which was not necessarily part of the original narrative, that there's a shots fired situation, which means put yourself in the officer's shoes. If you've got shots fired nearby and you've got people who run from you, which indicates something's wrong, and you're not sure if they have a weapon or not, I don't blame an officer for being concerned. I also want to say everything would be made better if people would not run when the police walk up to them, but communicate with the police. And if a police officer tells you that you're under arrest, comply. But that being said, where we need to get to is a situation where you never see an incident like that, where people know that there's the right kind of communication and the right kind of de-escalation. So that's where I want to see us go. Yes.
I want to ask about semi-Bernie, semi-coronavirus related tweets.
Okay, not to get the coronavirus in.
It's a gray area.
Yeah, you've already fouled once. Come on. If it's coronavirus, we're going to hold it. Just talk about Bernie.
So it's Medicare for all of Bernie Sanders, but you said the coronavirus is evidence why we need Medicare for all. Our current system won't cut it. We need change now, and Bernie Sanders. So I've started to hear some criticism that you're politicizing the coronavirus.
Oh, please.
What would be your response to that?
My response, I'll talk about coronavirus later. My response and the broad point is, there are so many reasons why a universal health care system would advantage us. But in a world where we're facing increasing globalized health threats, it is abundantly clear our current health system is inadequate. That's what I'm saying. That is.
Back from campaigning for Bernie while the city is
No,
on the brink of its kind of crisis.
Don't even try. Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, a couple of weeks ago, the Times published a story on Tyler Lockett and a rape investigation of an NYU student, and you were asked about it this week on Brian Lair. I just wanted to get straight from you. Do you think that this case was appropriately handled, and are you comfortable with having that detective in SPD? And I'd also like the commissioner and the chief of detectives to answer as well.
So again, I appreciate the question. Look. Whenever I don't have all the facts about a case, I'm going to tell you that, and I'm not going to comment in specific. What I feel is, having had the conversation with my colleagues many, many times about the resources and the change of approach that's needed to be effective compared to where we were a few years ago, I'm very confident that my colleagues right here around me know whatever resources they need, they will get for special victims, and that we take the concerns of advocates very seriously, and that we have to have an atmosphere where survivors are believed, listened to, that their needs are acted on, and I believe that is the direction that the department is taking. I can't speak about a specific case, But I want to be really clear. There's few situations that I know of where advocates say we need more resources, and the answer is that you can have whatever is needed, but it has to be interpreted by the police department as the experts. If they need more, they're going to get it. That's the answer everyone should want. That is the answer I've given repeatedly. So these guys tell me they need something more, they're going to get it.
But you said that you were briefed on this case, and you also read the story. So I wonder if you can comment specifically on this case.
No, I don't. I want to be careful. I don't think I said I was briefed on the case. I think I said I was briefed on the situation in that part of the NYPD. And again, I think my memory is serving.
I do know the facts of the case, Ashley, so I'll get into it, but I'll just start by saying we are 100% committed to the victims of sexual assaults in this city. I think we've demonstrated that, not only myself, Chief Harrison now, who's replaced me as the Chief of Detectives, Judy Harrison, who's doing a phenomenal job as the leader of the Special Victims Division. We've put in additional executive leadership into special victims. We've put additional headcount into special victims, driving the caseload down. We continue to give the men and women of Special Victims Division what I would consider exceptional training. If there's opportunities to increase that training and improve on it, which there always is, we will certainly look to do that as well. We've met with victims advocates on numerous occasions and taken their sometimes complaints and sometimes discussions to heart and acted upon many of their recommendations. We sit and review anonymized cases together with them. And when you sit and review those cases in anonymized fashion together, they have physically said to me that they were pleased with those cases. That's not to say that we're content. We are always looking to get better. We've also begun to make improvements to special victims facilities in the last, I'll say, year or two, roughly. 137 Center Street, victim-centered approaches. We have done a lot in the area around sexual assault survivors, and we're not going to stop doing more to make that horrific experience better, for lack of a good words. Regarding the Tyler Lockett case, I am intimately familiar with that case, as you know. I have been familiar with it. We have spoken about it in this room. I did read your article. I disagree with significant portions of that interpretation. The facts of the Tyler Lockett case, to insinuate that Tyler Lockett was let go because of the work of the Special Victims Division, is categorically false. I said at this table, probably 2 seats down months ago, maybe closer to a year ago, Tyler Lockett, who was incarcerated for months and was issued a program and then released into that program, never to show up, my understanding, and then commit multiple sexual assaults, I found extremely disturbing. But to tie it to an earlier case of a sexual assault victim, and I'm referring to the case with the fingerprint hit, is categorically wrong, and I think it's the wrong thing to do on multiple levels, and it's false. You need a complainant to prosecute that crime. There were multiple attempts to work with that victim in a victim-centered approach to bring the victim along to a point where she felt comfortable engaging in the system. And I know what was written in the story, that there was allegations that the officer was unprofessional on the initial encounter. I dispute those facts. We also made multiple attempts to engage and speak to the family of the victim. To this day, the victim will not cooperate in that prosecution, and we respect and honor her decision.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I wasn't finished. First, I wanted the chief detective to answer this question. I also wanted you to answer, since you're familiar with this case. Another victim also complained to you about this same detective. Are you comfortable having him in the Special Victims Division? Now you have 2 complaints.
I'm not familiar with another. I'm not familiar with another victim coming forward.
She met with you and complained to your face about how he.
I'm not familiar with that. Rodney, if you are, you can correct me.
the detective is a first-grade detective. He became first-grade detective because he investigates his cases very, very thoroughly. People don't become first-grade detectives in this police department for getting their supervisor a good cup of coffee or things of that nature. They work very hard. They solve a lot of intricate cases, and they work their behinds off. So I'm not sure about the complaints that were made towards the Detective McLaughlin, I believe his name is, but I have heard nothing but superlatives about his work ethic from his supervisors and from Chief Judy Harrison.
Go ahead, Katie.
This morning on Nika and Joe in the morning, you, whatever it's called, you said something
Morning, Joe.
to the effect of low information voters when explaining Biden's win.
No,
I know there was it
yeah,
kind of went
that
viral on
was-
Twitter. Do you want to clarify?
No, that was one of my colleagues on the panel putting her words into it, and I respect her, but that's not what I said. I said Joe Biden hasn't been vetted, and I want this is pure fact. A week ago today, people were prepared to write his obituary if he lost South Carolina, political obituary. And what happened in the last few debates? The focus was on Michael Bloomberg. To some extent, the focus is on Bernie Sanders. The focus has not been on Joe Biden. So I'm saying perfectly informed, concerned, active voters got a whole lot of information about other people, didn't get the case raising the concerns about Joe Biden, because that's not how the whole election was proceeding. Joe Biden was losing consistently. Now, with a one-on-one, you're going to get a really intensive examination of Joe Biden. And I think voters of all different backgrounds are going to see a lot more information. I think it's going to affect their thinking. That's what I was trying to say. I think it is a clear reality here. He hit a really perfect moment where he hadn't gotten a lot of examination and critique and scrutiny at the exact moment where he had an opening. And God bless him, that worked for him. But it's going to be a whole different ballgame now.
It aligns with what Sean had began to ask. You know, I mean, this morning you're on Morning Joe, you announced on this political appearance that there's actually 2 more confirmed cases of
It's not political
coronavirus.
appearance. Again, please, please, please. Guys, we're going to be at this for a long time. I'm allowed to say something, Katie. You're going to get to finish your sentence, I assure you. If you say it's a political appearance when the topic was coronavirus, it's just not a political appearance. I'm sorry. Look at the beginning of the show. Continue.
Well, I mean, would you consider maybe, you know, especially if this increases in New York City, would you consider maybe, you know, I mean, people see you tweeting from your personal account at all hours of the night about Bloomberg or Biden before there's information from the city's account about coronavirus fears that could actually affect them. Do you think maybe there should be some change
No,
there?
because we are constantly acting on coronavirus. Every New Yorker can see it. We give updates as soon as we have them, whether it's from me or from others. Meanwhile, an election is happening that's going to determine the fate of the nation and the fate of New York City. I'm sorry, we do not suspend elections in the middle of crises. They go on, and I'm going to be a participant because it matters. But if you are not respectfully, if anyone is missing everything that was being done on coronavirus all the time, and we're briefing you guys all the time, I don't think you're looking very hard. Who else?
I think the concern here is that you went on one show and gave a big reference to 2 new cases. It took your office an hour and a half to give detail on who those cases were,
Again.
you know, what they were. Why not just announce it to publicly instead of going on?
I'm just not getting into this. We are constantly updating. I gave the information that literally I gotten right before the show. The team is going to get everything out in detail as quickly as they can. If there's an hour lag or something, that's just part of a very complex dynamic where we got a lot of moving parts. But we're just constantly updating people. Anybody?
Yesterday, Frank Palladino of Local 1549 mentioned that there are 500 officers on desk duty.
Ralph.
What's it, Frank?
Ralph Palladino.
Ralph. Sorry, thinking of someone else. Well, anyways, 500 officers who are on desk duty that they believe should be out in the field, and they should instead be replaced with civilians. There has been talk in the past about taking more civilians and putting them into the police department in the desk duty type of positions. What is your response to?
Yeah, I'm going to see you and raise you. There's not been talk about it. There's been action. I was a believer when I was back in the city council that DC 37 was right about civilianization. We've done several rounds of it over the last few years. We can get to the exact numbers, but actually has been a very consistent effort to determine positions that could be civilianized so those officers could get out to the street. If there's more that we could do, we want to do it. There's obviously a limit, but if there's more we can do, we want to do it. Anything over here? Going over here, again, we're going to take a break in a moment, and then we'll come back on more coronavirus. Go ahead.
It's Kathleen Culliton from Patch. Yesterday, the family of Antonio Williams said they were going to be suing the NYPD for unedited footage of their son's death. I wondered if you could shed some light on why that footage was edited, what can't the public see, and who does that editing, and why it was released in the manner that it was.
Yep.
Why did the public see it for the family? Which is something that they said in their
Yeah, I don't think that's accurate. We came out with a process probably just before I became the police commissioner in terms of releasing body camera footage. I think the term we coined was critical incidents, and this certainly falls into that. There was a backlog that I'm sure all of you are aware. I believe that backlog in terms of police shootings has, as we sit here today, been cleaned up. So we are up to date, and hopefully we never have to release another one. This being one of the ones that was released. A decision was made internally in terms of body camera footage to how we put that out. And I think it's a sound decision. I mean, I'll always be open for revising policies, but I'm comfortable where that policy is now. And it's not so much editing to edit things out, it's to present, and I think that many people here have seen it, have been briefed on them, present the totality of the circumstances as we know it. So that is what we release. We do not put out just body camera footage. We put out details, and it's almost a short film, and that's my term. It may be a poor choice of words. In terms of how we share these videos with families of people, in this instance, that lost a loved one, we have been in contact with all 5 district attorneys in New York City and sharing our plans for what we do. And we have come up with a roadmap, if you will, that on both sides, whether it's an officer's family or a person that is tragically killed by the police, their family, that they should not be seeing something on the news. They should have an opportunity to be shown it first. And that was done in this instance. We met with the Bronx District Attorney's Office, people on this many times. My understanding is that the Williams family was up in the Bronx and had the opportunity to see that video that was released by us before it was released by us. They did want to see the entire body camera footage, and that is something that we are not doing. However, I will say that every prosecutor has all of the body camera footage that exists, and they were given the opportunity if they chose to. There is still, in many instances such as this, decisions that are made what will happen to this ongoing case. But they had that body camera footage. The district attorney's office, I believe, you'd have to ask them, but I believe likewise did not opt to show all of, and again, you're getting into extremely graphic ends here on both sides, and that's part of our decision-making process.
Okay, we are, one last one, and then we're going to break and get ready for the next piece.
Lincoln NYC, this week it was revealed that they are delinquent in installing the kiosk they were supposed to put in, owes the city millions of dollars. What do you plan to do to deal with that?
They better get things right. If they don't, we're going to find someone else who will. I mean, look, this is a company backed by Google. They are not poor. They're not doing their job. They were supposed to have these kiosks all over the 5 boroughs. They really haven't done that properly. We're not happy with them. So fly right, or we'll get someone else to do it. Thanks, everyone. See you in a few minutes.